special something that makes it go.
Yeah.
Well, today we're gonna take this awesome journey right into the heart of it all.
Okay.
We're talking about main.ars.
I like it. The heart of every Rust project.
It's like the starting line of a race.
It is. It's that kickoff point.
And to help us, really break this down, we've got expert speaker's name with us.
Hey, everyone.
I've been looking at this article by Owanohu Abiwan. They call themselves a creative tech innovator.
Catchy.
Yeah. And they've got this really cool way of explaining this, even with like a little code example.
Always helpful to have something concrete.
Right? So right away, we see this line and it says use std.io.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one to start with.
What's that all about?
So that's bringing in importing, we call it, Rust's standard input-output library,
Okay.
which basically is what gives your program the ability to talk to the outside world, to take information in and to show you the results.
So it's like what would you call it? The communication hub?
Yeah, you can think of it that way.
For our program, I'm starting to see why this main.rss file is so important.
And speaking of important, we've got to talk about the main function.
Okay.
Every Rust program needs one,
Right.
and it's always declared main
Every single time.
every single time. Think of it like that call to action. Without it, nothing's going to happen.
If you don't have that, your Rust program is going nowhere.
It's not going anywhere.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, you know who ABO1R starts off with this classic, hello world.
Of course, you got to start with the classics.
Yeah. And they use that to kind of illustrate some really important concepts.
It's a great way to demonstrate how Rust handles, one of the fundamentals of programming, right?
Yeah.
Interacting with the user.
Okay, so walk us through it. What's happening in those first few lines of code?
All right, so first things first. The program, it prints a welcome message
Okay.
to the user's screen.
So we've got this message on the screen. That's cool, but it's not just a one-way street, right?
No, definitely not.
It actually wants to know, who are we talking to?
Right, like who's using this program?
Exactly. So it actually asks for the user's name. And this part I find fascinating because the program is already getting ready for that name even before the user types it in.
Yeah, it's like setting up that space in memory saying, all right, I know I'm going to need to remember this later, so I'm just going to put an empty box here
Okay.
for now. And in this case, that empty box is a mutable string declared with let mud input string.new.
Okay. I think I got that. We got our little empty box ready to go. But how does it actually grab, grab that name when the user types it in?
So that's where this really neat function, readline, comes in.
That's what?
It's basically like the program going, okay, tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what your name is. I'm listening.
I like it.
And whatever the user types in gets stored in that input string that we set up earlier.
Okay, so we typed it in. It's stored in there. But sometimes, I'm guilty of this. You accidentally hit the space bar too many times.
Happens to the best of us.
Right. So there's extra spaces, maybe before or after the name.
We got to clean that up.
So how do we handle that?
That's where .trim comes into play. It's like our cleanup crew, right?
Okay.
Gets rid of all those extra spaces, make sure that we're just working with the name and nothing else.
So important. I love that about programming. It's so detail-oriented. Okay, so we got our nice clean name, all thanks to trim. What's next? What do we do with it?
Well, this is where it gets really cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is where that name actually becomes valuable. We use this thing called string interpolation.
Okay.
It's this line here. Println. Hello.
Yeah, so this is what I was waiting for. That's where it takes that name and it just inserts it plop right into that greeting.
Exactly.
So simple, but so cool. The possibilities are kind of endless.
Right. And the cool thing is, at its core, that's what most programs are, right?
Yeah.
Taking some kind of input, doing something with it, and then giving you back some kind of output.
It's like this mini program just inside of our main.rs. And that kind of brings up a question, right? What happens when our program wants to do more? A lot more? Are we just going to keep adding more stuff into our main function forever?
And that is a fantastic question. And it gets to one of the core principles of writing good software,
Okay.
which is keeping your code nice and clean and manageable.
Makes sense.
You can do that. You can keep throwing everything into main.
Yeah.
But especially as programs get larger, it just becomes this big tangled mess.
Like a bowl of spaghetti, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want that.
And so that's where things like functions and modules come in.
Okay.
Functions you can think of as mini programs
Right.
within your main program. Gotcha. Each one is designed to do a very specific task.
Okay, so instead of our main function doing everything, we can say, hey, you go do this. You go take care of this other part.
Exactly. Delegate, delegate, delegate.
I like it. That makes a lot of sense.
It's like, when you bake a cake, you don't just throw all the ingredients in at once, right?
Great way.
There's steps. There's a structure to it. Same thing with code. We use functions to structure our code logically.
So we're breaking things down, making them easier to manage. We're using functions, but then you know who Abby One also mentions modules.
Yeah.
How do those work? How do those fit into this whole picture?
So you can think of modules as like containers for your functions.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
They let you group similar functions together. Again, it's all about organization.
So if functions are like individual recipes, then a module is like the whole cookbook.
That's a great way to put it, because as your program grows, you might have hundreds of functions even.
Oh, yeah.
Modules help you keep track of all of them.
Makes sense. Anahu Abner's article, it's like our jumping off point, and they end by saying like, hey, what if you want your program to do more than just say hello?
Which is a great question.
Yeah, I think we're ready for that challenge.
That's the beauty of programming, right? You're always learning and exploring. We've covered a lot of the basics today, but it all builds from here.
It's like, you know, learning your ABCs so you can eventually write a novel.
Exactly.
So speaking of which, like for our listeners who are just, you know, starting their Rust journey, where should they go next? What should they check out?
Well, luckily, Anahu Abmore included some great resources
Okay.
in their article. Things like error handling, working with data, even a comparison of Rust to other languages,
Oh, cool.
like C.
Wow, it's like they've given us this whole map to like, you know, explore the world of Rust.
Yeah, take it and run with it.
Exactly. I love it. Well, we've covered a ton in this deep dive. I mean, we really got into main.rs, that heart of every REST program.
Broke down the main function, why it's so important.
Right. Like
Yeah.
that's where it all begins.
And even how to keep your code from becoming a big bowl of spaghetti
Ah, the importance of organization.
with functions and modules.
So listeners, remember, every line of code, every function, every module, it's all a step towards bringing your ideas to life.
That's what it's all about. Keep learning, keep experimenting, keep creating.
Maybe you'll write the next amazing Rust article that inspires a whole new batch of programmers.
I love it.
Until next time, everyone, happy coding!